Whereas in the States, the self-help books tend to start from the end of making a lot of money and so on. So Ikigai is not about making a lot of money. I mean, it's about finding joy in your life. Simple joys. Jiro Ono, the wonderful chef at Sukiyabashi Jiro, he didn't actually aim to become the world's best sushi chef, and he didn't actually expect President Obama
he came to the restaurant
to dine
yes.
at his restaurant. The beauty of Ikigai is that you can start very small and find joy in small things. And of course, as a bonus, you might become the chef of the world's most famous sushi restaurant. But that's not the essence. In the Olympics, you don't run to win the gold medal. You run for the very joy of it.
Okay.
And as a bonus, you might win the gold medal.
So, Dr. Ken Mogi, welcome to Pivot.
Thank you for having me.
So, you are a very famous neuroscientist in Japan, and you're kind of a celebrity who became famous on TV. So, I was very surprised that you wrote a book about Ikigai. Why did you decide to write a book about Ikigai?
As you know, for Japanese people, Ikigai is something like the air. It's something that is so normal. So
Yes.
we don't actually think of Ikigai a lot.
No.
But one day, I think it was in the year 2015, I think, I was attending a TEDx conference in Tokyo.
Yes.
And an American lady stood up, and just out of the blue mentioned Ikigai. And he said she was very interested in it.
Oh.
And a week after that, I was in another meeting with people from abroad, and another person stood up and mentioned Ikigai. So I thought, hey, what's happening?
What's happening?
All of a sudden, people are talking about Ikigai. So that's how I got interested in Ikigai.
I see.
Because I'm a neuroscientist, of course, Ikigai has a lot to do with the goals of life and reward structures in the brain and so on. So I think I thought I could write something original and maybe interesting to people.
Interesting.
That's how I started to write about Ikigai.
So I'll ask you how neuroscience relates to Ikigai later. But first of all, could you give me a definition of Ikigai? What's Ikigai?
Well, Ikigai is literally a meaning of life, a goal for life in Japanese.
So Iki is life and Gai is reason. Okay.
And interestingly, there's this concept called the linguistic hypothesis, which means that when you have something very important in a language system like Japanese, that concept would have a very simple expression, just one word.
One word.
So in Japanese, Ikigai is just one word. So apparently it's something very important and natural. But in English, if you want to say Ikigai, you would probably say purpose of life or goal of life. So there is no one single phrase. So I think that is a testimony of the fact that for Japanese people, Ikigai is very important.
Because we have the word.
Yeah.
Because in your book, you mentioned that Ikigai means that when people get up in the morning, that's the reason of Ikigai.
That's
but,
right.
But we need a lot of words to explain Ikigai. But
Yeah.
in Japanese, we can explain Ikigai in just one word.
That's right. So I think, there are many languages in the world. So I haven't done extensive survey yet. But in many countries, I think when they translate Ikigai into their own language, they would have to have several words. So, for example, in German, maybe Ziel für Leben, or I think in that sense, Japanese language is very unique.
Yes.
In their approach to Ikigai.
Since you mentioned about Germany, your book in Germany is a national bestseller.
Yeah, this is my book in German, Ikigai. It's a Spiegel bestseller.
For weeks. And,
so this has been one of the greatest surprise of my life, and I really thank the German people for reading my book. It has been on the Spiegel bestseller list, number one in the non-fiction section
Wow.
for weeks, literally 5-6 months
5-6 months.
in a row. So this is amazing.
So why are the German people suddenly interested in Ikigai? Are they looking for meaning of life or?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Once I had a German researcher visiting me in Japan, and she told me that many German people are too competitive. They compete with each other in the workplace, and as a consequence of that, they burn out. They do too much. Trying to be best, and so they sometimes feel that they're exhausted, and that's when I think my book Ikigai kind of went into the heart of German people, like rain on a dry ground or sunshine through the dark cloud, and so. I think that's probably why the German people love my book.
I see. You mentioned a very important concept because in your book you mentioned about Jiro, the very famous sushi chef for Sukiyabashi Jiro, but his motivation is not to make money or become rich, but to create the perfect sushi. So do you think Ikigai, how people, take their profession seriously, it's a very Japanese thing? Do you think that way?
I do think so. Ikigai is unique in its value system. If you look at the self-help books from the US.
Yes, there are a lot of self-help books.
Yeah, most of them are concerned with social success, making a lot of money,
becoming rich.
Yeah, personal worth and so on. But, as you mentioned, Jiro Ono, the wonderful chef at Sukiyabashi Jiro, arguably the world's best sushi restaurant and the oldest Michelin 3 stars chef.
Yes.
And, so I actually had the privilege to interview him for the NHK program. NHK is a Japanese public broadcaster.
Yes, like the BBC.
Yeah, like the BBC or PBS. And, he told me that he didn't actually aim to become the world's best sushi chef, and he didn't actually expect President Obama to
he came to the restaurant
to dine
at
his restaurant. He started very small because he said he was from a very humble background, and when he opened his restaurant, he didn't have a lot of money. So sushi restaurant was actually something that he could start with a very small amount of money. Because as you know, in Japan, when the samurai period, sushi started as a very simple fast food.
Cheap fast food, yes.
Yeah, so that's how he started his sushi restaurant. So I think the beauty of Ikigai is that you can start very small and find joy in small things. And of course, as a bonus, you might become the chef of the world's most famous sushi restaurant. But that's not the essence. Whereas in the States, the self-help books tend to start from the end of making a lot of money and so on. So Ikigai is not about making a lot of money. I mean, it's about finding joy in your life. Simple joys,
So do you think that the whole world outside Japan is starting to realize that the purpose of life or the purpose of your job is not just making money, but having fulfillment in your life? Do you think?
I believe so because, let's face it, not everyone can become an Elon Musk or
Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani or Mark Zuckerberg or Taylor Swift. So if you say that you should become a Taylor Swift or Elon Musk, of course it's wonderful to make efforts, but most of the people would end up, being disappointed.
Right.
But if you pursue your Ikigai, then you can coexist with other people. Because
I see.
Ikigai is something personal. So this is a fun fact. Do you know my greatest Ikigai in life?
Your Ikigai?
Yeah.
I don't know, being famous or being
no.
rich? No.
What is butterflies.
Butterflies.
I used to study butterflies when I was a kid. So when I go for a run in Tokyo, I have the butterfly moment. When a butterfly comes flying, I feel so happy. So I just stop running and watch the butterfly fly around me for a few moments, and that's my ikigai. So it has nothing to do with success or money or competition with other people. So can you describe your ikigai in that sense?
My ikigai is to listening to people and writing stories.
That's your job.
Yeah, my job, but this is my ikigai.
Okay.
And
so you don't want to be successful in that?
I want to be successful, but I have maybe two ikigais: being successful and having fulfillment in my life, or having passion in my life. So two ikigais.
Yeah, so one of the fun examples that I can think of is Steve Wozniak. I saw an interview of him when he described how he became the US champion for, I think it was Tetris or something, some computer game. When he was a student.
Okay.
So, of course, he went on to become the co-founder of Apple.
Apple, yes.
But I think Steve Wozniak had his ikigai of playing video games. So.
Instead of being a co-founder of Apple.
Yeah, so
wow.
I think that's very important. And I think Steve Wozniak became successful because he was a kind of person who had his ikigai in simple video game playing. So
I see. So do you think that, let's go back to the sushi Jiro story. Do you think that Jiro Ono will be even happy or have ikigai, even though he was not successful, or even though he has a restaurant that President Obama won't come? Do you think he will still be happy?
I think so. For someone who has ikigai, success is something like an instant. It's an optional.
It's an option.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have that. So that's the beauty of ikigai. When you come to Tokyo, you would be amazed because most visitors to Tokyo ride on the Shinkansen train.
Yes, the bullet train.
Yeah,
yes.
And when the Shinkansen train arrives at Tokyo Station, there are several cleaning ladies in pink, I think, costumes.
Yes.
That's a conscious. And then the so-called 7 minutes miracle starts, covered by Harvard Business School textbook.
Yes.
And these ladies go to clean the Shinkansen train and prepares for its departure again.
In 7 minutes.
In 7 minutes. It's wonderful. And they are so proud of it. And, I think, for example, in the US, cleaning jobs wouldn't be regarded as something that is worth devoting
not a fancy job.
Yeah, devoting your life for.
Yes.
But in Japan, cleaning the Shinkansen is a really respectable job. And not only that, if you know the Buddhist tradition in the Zen temples, cleaning the temples is actually a very important part of training to be enlightened.
Yes.
So I think there's this tradition, and there was this film by Wim Wenders called The Perfect Days.
Yes.
And it's about a man cleaning the public toilets in Tokyo.
Yes.
So I think that's a really beautiful depiction of ikigai. So if you haven't seen the film yet, The Perfect Days, I think that the title could have been Ikigai Days.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if Wim Wenders knows about Ikigai. But I'm a great fan of him. His films are really, wonderful. So, Wim Wenders, please come to Tokyo and let's talk about Ikigai.
Ikigai, okay. So, in the book, you mentioned about the 5 pillars of Ikigai.
Yeah.
So, pillar number 1, starting small. Pillar number 2, releasing yourself. Pillar number 3, harmony and sustainability. Pillar number 4, the joy of small things. Pillar number 5, being in the here and now.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on this? Could you explain this pillar step by step?
Starting small is very important because too many people think about very big goals.
Right.
But because they cannot realize it, very quickly, they are disappointed and they stop making efforts altogether. So that's a tragedy. So starting small is very important. Releasing yourself. This is very important because, living a life full of ikigai is about releasing yourself. So for example, as I said, I love butterflies, but of course grown-ups typically don't talk about butterflies.
No, it sounds like a very childish
yeah. So I release myself there. Harmony and sustainability. Actually, that's the theme of my second book.
Nagomi.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting title.
It's also a Spiegel bestseller. So harmony and sustainability, I think, is very central to the idea of Ikigai, because it's not a competition. It's not a race. Ikigai is how you live in harmony with other people and live and let live. It's diversity and inclusion. So number three is very important. The joy of small things. Ikigai can be something very big. Like in your case, maybe winning the Pulitzer Prize.
Yes, maybe, yes. That would be my Ikigai.
In my case, I think if I can understand how consciousness arises from brain activities, I will be very happy. So that's my greatest Ikigai. But at the same time, as I said, I have my butterfly moments. And also, in the morning, I get up and I make coffee and eat a piece of chocolate, and that makes me very happy. So Ikigai can be something very small like that. So it's a spectrum from a very small thing to the really big thing in your life. So the joy of small things is a pillar number 4. And pillar number 5, being in the here and now. I think this is, if you like, the black belt of
the karate.
Ikigai. Ikigai, in the art of Ikigai. Because it's about mindfulness. It's about in the flow, in the zone. Described by Csikszentmihalyi, the wonderful psychologist. So if you know how to be in the here and now, I think then you are a master of Ikigai.
So do you mean that concentrating on the present? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like we are doing now.
So is this the part where neuroscience and Ikigai connects together?
Exactly. How you can be in the here and now has a lot to do with the state of the flow. And when you are in the flow, your performance becomes actually maximum. So typically when athletes compete in the Olympic Games, for example, when they make new world records or win the gold medal, they are in the flow. And when that happens, you forget the passage of time and you forget the existence of yourself. And also, your action becomes the reward itself. So, for example, in the Olympics, you don't run to win the gold medal. You run for the very joy of it. And as a bonus, you might win the gold medal.
So the gold medal comes after.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this pillar number 5, being in the here and now, is probably the pinnacle of the art of Ikigai.
I see. You mentioned this is a black belt of Ikigai, but how can you train yourself to achieve pillar number 5?
I think, so in that sense, to achieve pillar number 5, I think pillars 1 to 4 are very important. So many people actually forget the importance of starting small. I see many people complaining about their life.
Yes.
Things are not going well, but they simply have forgotten that they need to start small and to find joy in small things and release yourself and being in harmonious and sustainable relationships with others. So if you practice pillars number 1 to number 4,
I see.
Then you can achieve pillar number 5, being in the here and now.
So even small things like waking up in the morning and eating chocolate and having joy, that's having Ikigai.
Yes. So I think I'm very happy to have written this book because I think this is a recipe that can be applied to everyone. If you write a book on how to become a genius, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and how to be successful. That can not be applied to everyone because some people succeed and some people do not succeed.
Yes.
But if you write about Ikigai, of course, everybody can have.
That's an interesting point.
Or her Ikigai. So
maybe this is the first book everyone can learn and actually apply to their own lives. And
I believe so. And I know this program is called Japan Pivot.
Japan Pivot.
There's this perception that Japan has many problems. We do have some problems, but at the same time, I think there are many things quite interesting. learn from Japanese culture.
Right.
So one is Ikigai, and the other is Nagomi. Of
Could
course.
you quickly explain what Nagomi is?
Nagomi is the Japanese word for harmony, and famously, as you know, the oldest constitution of Japan, the so-called 17 article constitution of Japan, devised by Prince Shotoku in the year, I'm very bad with,
I'll Google it later.
history.
Yes.
But anyway, so in the first article declares that Nagomi is important.
Yes.
So that is, kind of a number one principle of this country,
Japan. Yes.
And Nagomi is the name of the special train reserved for the emperor.
Ah, yes.
It's called
right.
Nagomi.
Nagomi.
Yeah. Also, Nagomi is, I think, the ideal state in Japanese culture. So I think that's why many things in Japan has been sustainable. Like the imperial house, it's the world's oldest hereditary monarchy.
Yes.
The present emperor, I think, is 126.
Maybe pretty long history. Yes.
Yeah. And so Nagomi is about sustainability, but also Nagomi is something tangible and something that you can eat actually.
You can eat Nagomi?
Yeah. For example, the green matcha ice cream.
Matcha ice cream. I like matcha.
It's very Nagomi because matcha is very Japanese, and ice cream is very Western.
So that's Nagomi.
Nagomi is how you can mix your different elements into one harmonious.
Harmony. So East and West.
Yeah, and another example is katsu curry.
Katsu curry, yes.
But katsu is cutlet.
Cutlet, yeah.
From I think that's a French cuisine.
Maybe European something.
Yeah, and pork. Japanese people didn't used to eat pork or any animal meat, and curry is of course Indian. So, katsu curry is chicken katsu curry is very very Nagomi.
I see.
So there are many examples like that. So, and one thing that, I know you like Japanese comedy, right?
Yes, I like Japanese comedy.
And in this book I have introduced a really wonderful part of Japanese comedy, which is rakugo.
Rakugo, yes.
And in rakugo, the rakugo artist portray several people at the same time. So you can even portray different persons with different views. Like in the US, for example, you can act as Donald Trump.
Yes.
And Joe Biden.
Yes. So the rakugo comedian acts like pretends to be someone else simultaneously.
Yeah. So that's very Nagomi.
Nagomi, I see.
Because stand-up comedians in the US, they tend to portray a particular standpoint, right?
That's a good point.
Criticizing Trump or criticizing Joe Biden. So I think in the Japanese tradition of comedy, I think there is this really wonderful, example of rakugo where different opposing views are, kind of integrated into one harmonious.
And the one
state.
comedian
plays it.
That's interesting.
I think that's really, wonderful aspect of Japanese culture.
Wow. You mentioned Ikigai, Nagomi, and also in your book you mentioned kodawari.
Yes,
what's
this is interesting. Isn't
yes,
it?
using an example ramen. So
because everybody loves Japanese ramen noodles, and if you go to a Japanese ramen restaurant, the chef might have a kodawari. Kodawari can be defined as something, aiming to achieve perfection. In the taste and soup and noodles and so on, even if it's not demanded by market. I mean, so in the capitalist society, usually people would make efforts to meet the demand of the market,
so they can charge a price to the customer.
But in kodawari, you actually don't care about the customers. And the film Timetable. This is a very famous ramen film.
Yes.
This mindset of the ramen noodle chefs really beautifully portrayed.
Yes.
I mean, it's like a way of dedicating your whole life to the perfection of a bowl of ramen noodles. So that's kodawari, and that's a really wonderful aspect of Ikigai and Nagomi, I think.
So I saw the movie, Itami Juzo's movie, the ramen Western movie. So they make a bowl of ramen, but the interesting is that the customer doesn't even realize the perfection.
That's right.
And the chef doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's very non-Western style of thinking. You know, regularly people will charge the price or make the characteristics stand out, but they do the kodawari, even the customers won't realize it.
I think that's the beauty of kodawari, and that I think has given Japanese culture the depth that people around the world have come to appreciate. For example, Hayao Miyazaki films.
Yes.
I mean, Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro. Of course, people love it.
Yes.
But if you are real anime fan or anime otaku, you realize that there are many, kodawari points
that's
by
right.
Hayao Miyazaki,
yes.
which a typical viewer might not
No.
notice. So, but once you notice the kodawari of Hayao Miyazaki, then you appreciate the depth of these wonderful works. So, I think that's a really wonderful aspect of Japanese mindset.
Because Hayao Miyazaki movies, the details, it doesn't relate to the main story.
That's right, exactly.
But they have the details.
Yeah.
So why does Hayao Miyazaki do this?
I think, in the Japanese culture, I actually wrote a really wonderful, episode of court musicians in the Imperial Palace. Traditionally they make music in the Imperial Palace.
Yes.
But sometimes nobody's listening. Sometimes the emperor and empress come and they stay for a while and they go away. But then the musicians keep playing.
They don't stop the music.
Yeah, they keep
even
playing
though
the
no one's
perfect
listening.
music. So I think, Japan has 8 million gods.
Yes.
There are many gods, and if this is a very old cup, there might be god
in here. Yes.
That's the Japanese tradition. I'd say. So I think kodawari comes from that belief. I think if you work on something very, very, with passion and so on, then deity or something like a god might dwell in it.
Wow.
So I think that's actually what Hayao Miyazaki believes actually in his anime filmmaking. So
that's why you don't need a customer or someone to pay you.
Yeah, because God is watching your moves.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so Dr. Mogi, we need to wrap up. So what will be the future of Ikigai? Do you think your book will continue to be a bestseller?
Yes. Actually, I'm studying scientific studies of
Okay.
Ikigai. And I think Ikigai is unique because it's self-referential. It's a way of living, and it's a goal of life.
Yes.
So in that sense, it's very flexible and robust. It's importantly different from other progressive goals like money or success, because these are, after all, progressive goals. I mean, it's not life itself. Money and success is something that you use as a tool to find satisfaction in life. So these are just tools or proxy goals.
Yes.
But Ikigai is always a true goal.
Right.
So I think, my recommendation from here, and I'm doing some scientific research into it, is that people probably are well advised to, forget about the proxy goals. Of course, you can pursue your proxy goals, like in your case, the Pulitzer Prize.
Pulitzer Prize.
Is your proxy goal.
Yes.
Maybe in my case, the Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize.
Might be my proxy goals.
Yes.
But it's not the ultimate goal in life.
Okay.
So once you realize that, you can be happy with your Ikigai from day one. From this moment, from the moment you finish this, watching this video, you can be happy because you are free from the illusions of proxy goals, and you can dedicate your life to Ikigai. So,
wow. Thank you, Dr. Mogi. Thank you for joining our show.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you for having me.